Okay, so the 4-point method is a way for us to graph our quadratics, to make our parabola, right? So, what are the 4 special points of the parabola? We have the vertex, the x-intercepts, and there's usually 2 of them, and the y-intercept. So those are the 4 points that you need to plot. And once you plot those 4 points, then you can graph your parabola. All right, so we're going to do this method with y equals 2x squared plus 13x minus 24. Here's my other question for you. What form is that in? Is it standard, factored, or vertex? Sydney. Standard. Awesome. Okay, the first thing I need to do is find the y-intercept. So if you remember back when we talked about y-intercepts, the y-intercept always has 0 for x, and then you need to find what number it is for y. So I can just plug 0 in for x, and it will give me the y. So I'm going to do that. So y equals 2 times 0 squared plus 13 times 0 minus 24. This is 0, this is 0, minus 24. So my y-intercept is 0, 24. So I'm just going to go ahead and sketch that down here. It's going to be this point right here, negative 24. Notice when I'm doing a sketch, I don't have to be perfect. I don't have to draw my grid lines. I just need to mark where it is, okay? All right, next I'm going to find my x-intercepts. My x-intercepts have 0 for the y. So what we learned was we can plug 0 in for y. So I've got 0 equals 2x squared plus 13x minus 24. But when it's written out in standard form like that, I can't just solve this. So what I need to do is I need to get it into product or factored form, so then I can use the 0 product property, okay? All right, so I need to factor this. So I'm going to do my rectangle and my diamond. And I've got 2x squared down here. Where does the 13x go?
The bottom of
the bottom of the diamond. Where does the negative 24 go?
the top right of the square.
Top right of the square. What goes in the top of the diamond?
The 2x squared
Times?
negative 24.
Okay, so negative 48x squared. So since it's negative, I've got a positive and a negative. So now I need 2 numbers that multiply to 48 that have a difference of 13. So what do you think they are?
Negative 3 to 16.
3 and 16, okay. If you weren't sure, just start with 1 and 48, 2 and 24, 3 and 16, and just work your way until you find it. Do I want the 3 to be positive or the 16 to be positive?
16.
16, okay, so 16x and minus 3x, and then I put them over here, and it doesn't matter which spot you put them in. All right, so now 2x squared, so I'm going to have an x and a 2x. Which one do I want to go on the bottom here? 2x, because that'll multiply up to the 16. And then if I have an x here, what goes here? Negative 3, and then up here, 8. So what I just did was I changed it from standard form to factored form. So I have x plus 8 and 2x minus 3. Now, since I have 2 things that are multiplying that equal 0, one of them's got to be 0. So either this one is 0, so x plus 8 equals 0, in which case what would x be? Negative 8. So there's one of my x-intercepts, negative 8, 0. Or this one equals 0. 2x minus 3 equals 0. So I'm going to add 3 to both sides first. And I get 2x equals 3. And then if I divide by 2, I get x is 1.5. All right, so there's my other x-intercept. So let's plot those. So 1.5 is going to be right here in between 1 and 2. And then negative 8. Okay. All right, so those are my 2 intercepts. So now I have 3 of my 4 points. What do I know about the vertex?
It's exactly in the middle of the 2 x-intercepts.
Fantastic. It is exactly in the middle of the 2 x-intercepts. So how far apart are 8 and 1.5? They're 9.5 apart, right? Okay, what's half of 9.5? see, let's put it in our calculator if we're not sure. 9.5 divided by 2, I get 4.75. So my vertex is going to be halfway in between, so it's going to be 4.75 away from negative 8. So I'm going to do negative 8 plus 4.75, and I get negative 3.25. Okay, so when I'm finding my vertex, the x value is halfway between the x-intercepts. So from negative 8 to 1.5, we found that that was 9.5, and then if I divide that in 2, I got 4.75. So that means the x value is negative 3.25, because negative 3.25 is 4.75 away from negative 8, and 4.75 away from 1.5. Well, if I have the x, how am I going to find the y? What am I going to do to find the y? I have my equation, right? And I have an x. Plug it in. Plug it in. Okay, so to find my y, I am going to do 2 times negative 3.25 squared. See, what was the rest of my equation? Plus 13 times negative 3.25. And then minus 24. Okay, I'm going to do this one in my calculator. So 2 times negative 3.25 squared plus 13 times negative 3.25 minus 24. And I get my y value is negative 45.125. Woo, that's far, but that's okay. Negative 45.125. So the x is halfway between the x-intercepts. The y, you just plug it back in. All right, so that means I'm going to go to negative 3.25, which is right about here. And I'm going to be going way down here-ish. So let's extend our line. So negative 3.25, comma, negative 45.125. Remember, this is just a sketch. And when we're doing a sketch, it doesn't have to be perfect. All right, so now I'm just gonna make my parabola. And I always kind of make one half and then the other half. Notice how imperfect that is? That's okay, because it's a sketch. So I found my y-intercept first by plugging 0 in for x. I found my x-intercepts by plugging 0 in for y, and I had to factor before I could solve it. And then I found my vertex because it's halfway between the x's. That gave me the x, and I plugged it into the equation to get the y. 4-point method.